the Zoom link, just by the way, the Zoom link that was sent out about an hour ago did not work. It said it was in incorrect ID. So I had to go back to the what was filed in the town for the meeting.
I didn't send one out an hour ago.
I got, oh, that's funny. Okay.
No,
I got something about it.
I sent the whole board, and I actually sent the wrong one to Bob's address, but a PDF of the agenda, and also because the old link is not valid anymore. So if you use one in your history, it's not going to work.
That may have been the reminder that I got. It was using an old one.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're recording. So let's start the official. Welcome to the March 18th Roads and Right of Ways Committee meeting. This is an open meeting being conducted via Zoom. Please note that it is being recorded and available for viewing at a future time on the town's YouTube channel. Because we are meeting in Zoom, all roll calls will be done for attendance, motions, and votes. We don't have any visitors here today, but if they were, we'd ask them to make themselves known, and we would make sure that they were identified. So that being said, we will do a roll call. Alan Reinhardt.
Here.
Lee Saperstein.
Here.
Rick Atherton. Can we hear you, Rick? No, we're no audio. Put your hand up so I can, okay. Phil Smith.
Here.
And Bill Greeter. So Rick, if you want to keep working on your thing, or if you want to, if you can't get that computer to work for the audio, if you want to dial in from your phone, we'll let you in on another spot, and then your audio can come in that way. All right, so the first order of business is to accept the February 2025 minutes that was done by our temporary scribe of last month, Rick Atherton. And if anybody had a chance to read those, and if so, we have a motion to accept them. Otherwise, we'll put that off to next month.
Motion to approve.
The motion was by Alan.
Yes.
And do we have a second? Rick raised his hand. Simon Rick raised his hand for a second. So it's a motion by Alan, seconded by Rick. Any discussion, corrections? Hearing and seeing none. Do a roll call. Alan Reinhardt.
Aye.
Lee Saperstein.
Aye.
Rick Atherton. Thumbs up from Rick. Phil Smith.
Aye.
And Bill Greeter. Thank you. We don't have any, I should also note in the attendance is Bob Borowski from the town. And Bob, you can just say hello, so it's official that we're once again welcoming you.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So Bob's he's not really a visitor. He's a member now. He's part of the gang. Little did he know that when he signed on. So the next agenda item was the status of the Roads and Right of Ways Committee. Unfortunately, Tracy's got a scheduling conflict, and unless she passed anything on to you, Bob, we'll have to defer on that.
No, nothing. I apologize. Nothing specific to the agenda items.
Okay. And the same is true for an update on Stone Alley.
Correct. I'm not, I'm not up to date on that.
Okay. So that being said, we have a wide open agenda here, for other business as, members want to bring up. Lee?
Bill, I'm a little disappointed. I attended the information session of this morning on Easy Street. And as nearly as I can tell, I was the only member of the committee that was listening to it. And yet they were posing questions to the public, of whom we are members, on choices among three particular alternatives. And there was a lot of opportunity for input. And I'm disappointed that we're not providing a committee input into these selections.
Well, quite frankly, I'm not sure, as a board that, well, I know we haven't been asked to participate. And, the last time that we pro-offered information was the beginning of the consternation, and that was over the sidewalks. And we're told that wasn't our purview. So, I mean, I think we've been asking for clarification on this. And so I agree it would be good to have our input. Anyway, that's just, I don't want to vent my personal frustration on this. So any other board members want to chime in here? Alan, you all set?
Well, I'm debating whether I want to chime in on it. I am a member of the Land Bank Commission. I'm one of the 5 commissioners, and I'm also on the subcommittee that is discussing the Easy Street. We're working on the end down by where it turns on to oh God.
Alan,
Anyway.
it's probably Steamboat Wharf.
No, that's a whole different, that has nothing to do with the project that Bill mentioned this morning. The project that Bill mentioned is called the Washington Street Work Group. There are a group of us, including Nat is on it. I'm on it as a representative of the Land Bank. Charles from the sewer department is on it. The coastal management is on it. And there are other people who are involved with the coastal resilience plan. But again, our focus is simply on the Easy Street end. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry, the Washington Street end of it. As you come down Francis Street onto Washington Street, we're dealing with that corner, basically, that corner and maybe 4 or 5 properties from the corner down.
The next public hearing or discussion will be realignment or work to be done at the Francis Street Beach.
Correct. And the Francis Street Beach is right at that corner.
Yes.
So there, by the way, there will be a second session of that morning session tonight at 5, I believe it's 5:30, 5 or 5:30 tonight. So if you want to tune into it, that would be the time to do it. I had to miss it this morning. I had a conflict, so I said, well, I'll just catch it this evening.
It's well
But anyway,
worthwhile.
that's what that project is. We're looking at how do we protect Francis Street Beach and the properties along that section of Washington Street? Most of those are private properties, of course. Well, no, not most of them. In fact, the Land Bank owns significant properties. That's why, that's why the Land Bank is involved in this.
So Rick, I see that you've been able to get in the other way. I want to try your audio on that other connection.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we sure
Yes.
can.
Bill, Mr. Chair, does Rick now get 2 votes?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I will, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Can you hear us?
Okay, I'll turn off the other one. I don't know what's going on, but anyway, sorry.
That's okay. You can hear us now, correct?
Yes, I can hear you. I think I was on the wrong microphone selection from the lower left caret. How's that sound?
All
We
right, well,
understand.
glad to have you back.
Rick, I tell people if you're going to use a string telephone, 2 tin cans and a string, it only works if you stretch it tightly.
Well, yeah, I'm working on it. All right. Hopefully I'm just a single vote now, Bob.
No, you're still there twice,
Yeah.
but that's fine.
Okay, thanks.
That's okay. Maybe one's audio, one's video. We don't know.
Isn't that interesting? I've got to leave the meeting here just a minute. Gotta mute myself.
Oh, there
Yeah.
you go.
It worked.
Okay.
Your audio is off.
So you got yourself muted, but we saw
Yeah,
you
but-
do that, so you're all set.
Yep.
You're muted still.
Bingo.
Right. You're almost an astronaut.
Yeah, and I'm coming back today after 9 months.
So, anyway, so that's, anybody else want to chime in on that meeting, coastal resiliency?
Well, what I can add here is that the group, this Washington Street Work Group, that's focusing on the Francis Street Beach section of Washington Street, we have proposed 3 different possibilities for the sidewalk. We need to have a sidewalk, a bike path there, whatever. And there were 3 designs that have been considered. By the way, this group has been working for the last 4 or 5 months anyway, I believe. And we're working with a what are they called? Scape. It's a landscaping firm. And as I say, the town is involved, the land bank is involved, and we've had, I don't know how many meetings so far to develop these 3 proposals for what's going to happen or what could possibly happen on that corner. The whole point of this is, of course, protecting Washington Street, which is the main access into downtown, from the rise of sea level rise. And so anyway, there are 3 different proposals how to address this. One is sort of an elevated walkway that would include a bicycle path and that sort of thing. One of the things we're being careful about is we don't want to block the view, because a lot of people who, drive that corridor, want to be able to see the water as they come around the bend, but they don't want it lapping up against their tires, though. So that's basically what we are involved in trying to figure out. What is the best way? What is the best structure that we can put at that corner to protect that section of Washington Street?
So, hey,
Well,
Alan, a quick question.
Yep.
Yeah.
So when they're doing the Easy Street proposals at the moment, I'm not sure I have it right, but it kind of sounded like they were talking about raising Easy Street itself. Is that correct? Does
That's a
anybody know?
That's a whole different project. once you get down to Easy Street, because again, there are issues as far as the property ownership. The land bank owns a significant portion of that. The town has, of course, the bulkhead. There's the Arno property on the corner, which is going to be now a restaurant, I see. So but that whole section of Easy Street is a whole separate project. As far as I know, there's been we haven't gone into the detail that we've gone in on the Washington Street part of it.
Rick, the three alternatives that were discussed this morning and will be discussed again later this afternoon are on the town's website under the rubric of projects. I'd have to double check the email I got and send it to you. Just where is projects? I think it's under the coastal resilience action, but I'd have to double check.
Rick, when I read the blurb on that, I didn't see the third one, but I saw the possibility of a 6 to 8 foot raised wall was one item, and raising the road itself was, a different option or whatever. So, but I mean,
There's all kinds of implications, Bill,
Right.
for access for pedestrians from an elevation of the existing sidewalk to cross the raised road. So do we then raise the sidewalks in consort with the raising the road? Those questions are out there and they've been discussed.
so, I mean, I haven't actually seen the presentation other than what I read. I just find it hard to believe that the wall, no matter how tall it is going to solve the issue when we're talking about how Brand Point's going to be underwater and the water's just going to come from the steamboat side down Easy Street that way. But anyway, I think more importantly to Lee's point, officially we weren't there, nor have we been officially part of the discussion on the bike pedestrian walkway on Pleasant Street. So, that's been handled by the Transportation Department and the DPW. And we had discussion on it way back when his name escapes me, but the former DPW director, Rob McNeil, was the last time that we had any conversation with anybody from the town on that project. So it may very well be this is all things that are feeding into them saying they need to disband us or move us along or whatever it is. So I'm at a quandary and I can't tell you.
So Alan, just to, the reason I raised Easy Street, I know they're different projects, but it's one, in some ways, it's one contiguous, border with the harbor, and water's coming in every place it can. And it would seem to me they have to be integrated enough so and maybe Phil gets into this with the harbor plan. So you don't have openings between the two projects, and water just says, well, I think I'll come in right here and I'm going to move up Easy Street behind the wall, all those kinds of questions. And they apply if Washington Street is going to have a 4-foot high berm to put your sidewalk on to keep the water out. And then people walking down Washington Street can't see the water. So there are just so many issues here. It's really, really mind-blowing.
There are a lot of issues there. The berm, by the way, is not 4 feet high.
I just made it up.
Yeah, I know. The thing that we were concerned about was people being able to see the water. I mean, and so there's the element of raising the street, raising the road where all the trucks and everything else, the main entrance to the town is on Washington Street. And keeping in mind that we want to elevate the sidewalk or the bicycle path, but we want to be able to have people see the water, see the harbor as they're coming in. So that is one of the main design factors for that part of Washington Street.
Thank you.
Alan, I gotta ask you a question, since you've been part of that discussion. The beach access to the Francis Street Beach, you got the two parcels of land bank property now,
Mhm.
one without the house and then to the south of that, is the entrance, where you come in down where the sailboat rental place is. And we had looked at previously last year the fact that the area that the sailboats are using pretty much encroaches right up to the on the lease that's there, and so it's not pedestrian friendly to get onto the beach. And we brought up, or I brought up to the board here, and we looked at the lease, and the lease talks about vehicle access onto Francis Street Beach, not pedestrian access. And so, as your role as a land bank person, or the other 2 or 3 hats that you're wearing on that committee, you might want to ask how that's being addressed. Is that going to be a restructured lease that will allow for pedestrian access as opposed to vehicle access? So currently that's what's on the books is vehicle access, not pedestrian.
As far as vehicle access to the beach, the town owns the section where they rent the kayaks
Yeah.
up against the seawall there. The seawall that, by the way, they never put a right of way around. They simply blocked off the pedestrian access to it, which is a whole other issue. So anyway, that's why the town is involved. We have, in fact, Libby is on this Washington Street work group. Libby, and as they say, all the people that are, a couple of the people that are involved with the coastal resilience part of it. So I don't foresee any vehicle access to the beach at Francis Street. Anyway, if that is part of your question.
No, that's in the current lease, about, maintaining vehicle access to the beach. And so it doesn't seem like it was a very usable access to begin
Yeah,
with.
exactly. I don't, that's,
So I would think, or I would hope, that part of this redesign is pedestrian access to the beach.
yeah, that's exactly what we've been concentrating on. We looked at a couple of designs of walkways, boardwalks, essentially. One, anyway, there are 3 basic designs that are being considered for that part of Washington Street, and they all are designed around pedestrian access. So as far as I know, there's no plan for vehicle access. I'm not sure how that could be accommodated over that section, but
No, I'm not saying that this should be. I'm saying I would think that part of that redesign will also be a redesign of the lease to talk about pedestrian access, not vehicle access.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as I say, it is. It is primarily pedestrian access, both to the beach and also for bicycles and to keep them off the roadway and get them into town safely. As
Yeah.
you know, Washington Street is not a particularly safe road to bicycle on or even walk on sometimes because the sidewalk is pretty narrow there too as well.
Okay.
So, by the way, regarding your earlier comment about the function of the committee and the relationship of the committee and so on, in the old days, we used to have Mike Burns was a regular, attendee of our meetings, and Mike Burns was a real link to what was going on with the the public access ways, all around the island. And I haven't seen Mike for ages, so he seems to be, I don't know, under the radar somehow. But other than Pleasant Street, which I understand isn't going so well. Um,
Well, it's supposed to be an experiment, but because I have to use it to get home, I can comment that the pedestrian bicycle portion of it is almost impassable.
Yes.
That could be rhymed with impossible, but I did say impassable.
Impassable, right.
It's not been cleaned up. The roughness in the pavement left over from the construction means that the last time I saw a cyclist, the cyclist was headed down the roadway as if a car and didn't go over into the pedestrian portion. The barriers sort of nudge their way into the pedestrian portion, and it's difficult to pass. So as an experiment, it doesn't really tell the public what it would be like if the roadway was smooth and there were good barrier for the pedestrian way. Right now, the experiment's a failure.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. By the way, years ago, I met with the property owner, where the trees were up near the road. I met with the property owner. I met with let's see. Oh, the transportation director was there, Mike Burns, and I think Andrew Vorse was also involved. And we were this is from our committee. We were proposing the sidewalk extending from where the sidewalk ends at Gardner Perry Lane, I believe it is, all the way down to the road that goes up and connects over to the high school.
William.
Yeah, William Street. And the property owner was mindful of that. In fact, when he took down the trees that would have been in the path for the sidewalk, and of course he replanted them back away on his property and so on. I don't know whatever happened to that idea of pursuing the sidewalk on that side of the street, but that would, again, that's the kind of project that I think Roads and Right of Way would be instrumental in proposing or suggesting to the authorities in town. That's just sort of an aside from that whole.
Well, Alan, it's more than an aside. I agree with you. We can render an opinion. The opinion can be accepted or rejected. No problem.
But that would certainly solve the problem of pedestrians. And we know that that's a main feeder to the high school. So there are all sorts of reasons for that sidewalk to be constructed, as opposed to making it a one-way street, which the current experiment is demonstrating it's not very feasible to do that.
Bill, you have anything?
You're asking about the harbor plan thing?
No, just anything in general before we beat a dead horse here, because our main agenda is.
Well,
really-
I was just looking at the draft of the harbor plan. We have just, we're probably a month away from coming up with our first draft that we can show people. But for public access, which involves roads and right of way, we've got about 15 recommendations. And they don't get particularly granular in terms of do this with Washington Street, do this with Easy Street or something like that. It talks a lot about Chapter 91. It talks a lot about access to the water. It talks about, something that's been talked about forever as another boat ramp. But it's something that this committee will be very interested in going through. And I think that a lot of it is just sort of trying to recommend that there'd be certain action taken to catalog what we have and what we don't have and what we need and that sort of thing. But nothing with specific streets in mind.
Going forward, so if we ever do have a sit down to find out what our role is going to be, or are there items that you can think of that we can put on a status update? We've got the Stone Alley, and you don't have to chime in right now. If you could send them to me, I'll compile a list and then send out the compile list to everybody so that we don't get it.
I don't want to send anything out from this plan until.
No, not you. I'm talking about other items that we've
Okay.
had.
I mean, it's interesting that essentially our committee thinks virtually every one of these items, roads and right of way, is a quote unquote responsible party. So I don't know who would take our place if there wasn't a roads and right of way committee.
Well, I think,
You'll see when I send this around.
Good point.
so Phil, we look forward to that, Bill, one thought on this whole sort of question. And I would just think we want to send out the excuse me, the existing charge to the committee from the selectmen, which forms the basis from when it was established. And I don't think their charge has changed. We've had some reports, and Alan has commented in his when he visited with the selectmen on our mission and all of that. But it's a place to sort of restart anything as to what that mission statement is. And we could send it out to all the members again. And I think this is a continuing agenda item. It doesn't sort of go away. So.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
you know what? That
Go ahead,
raises an
Bill.
interesting point, Rick. It wouldn't be bad if our harbor plan update committee had something in writing in front of them for our next meeting, which is 2 weeks from yesterday, saying this is what the roads and right of way committee's mandate is, because we are just digging into public access when our meeting was concluded yesterday. So I could send that, I could show that to everybody and say, okay, this is the mandate of the committee as we go through public access in our discussions. This is what roads and right of way role is, or officially is. That might be helpful because I don't think anybody really knows.
Well, it's
Well,
actually,
I'm pretty sure that the vision and mission statement that we worked on 6 or 7 years ago is on the
Yeah.
website.
It's right on the,
Okay.
it's right, let me just grab it and I'll show you. It's right on the
Okay, okay, well,
website.
I can copy and paste that then.
Uh.
I mean, it's interesting, this committee has representatives from the land bank. You know, we have Jeff Carlson, Tara Riley. I mean, it's been an attempt to try to get people from all these different organizations on the island, that Conservation Commission, SHAB, all these organizations that are represented on this committee.
Can you see,
Yeah,
What
I
is-
see it.
okay, so that's the face of our, on our website.
Okay,
And, you know, that's reflected in, any correspondence previously with the town.
okay,
And, you'll see that the vision statement was adopted in 2009. That was on there. And then since we're here, you can see the stuff on here that's
Bill, where it says Nantucket Road ownership, that's the map I was referring to
yeah.
earlier.
okay, well, I will copy and paste this for this committee. I mean, as I said, we have been meeting for the last 2 years, every other week, all year long.
Hmm.
Oh, Linda Williams is on the committee?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a very important committee, the whole harbor plan issue. I remember I was involved with it in the last go round, which was what, 15 years ago or whenever, the current plan was put into place. And eh, there's a
There was a harbor plan implementation committee to which I was liaison. The chair of that got so crosswise with the select board that eventually the chair left the island. Phil, you've been warned.
Well, I would say a couple of things just as an observation. I am not telling anybody something they don't know, but we have bumped up against so many instances of where there are existing regulations and bylaws and all this stuff, and topics come up because they're not enforced.
Nope.
And so it's been a little bit of an exercise of why create another regulation when regulation number 1 isn't being enforced. And
Phil, you've identified something that's called enforcement by complaint. We only look after noises if somebody complains.
and so anyhow, one of the things for this committee is I have been a real proponent in making sure that every recommendation has a verb in it, like we will do this or we will do that, rather than, think about this or study that or whatever. We have to have recommendations that have an action associated with it, and that there is some group overseeing the execution of that stuff.
Yeah, the lawyer will tell you, Phil, the difference between should and shall.
Well,
and will and may.
well, I've already told you who some of our characters are. I don't need to. You
Okay.
can use your imagination.
exactly.
So, getting back to my suggestion to the board, that if we ever do have a sit down to find out, if our role is changing or whatever, to start to compile, items that we've, had on our punch list for some time, some of them for eons. And the
Bill, I
four,
sent out the latest version of our potential takings list. There's only 3 or 4 ways left on the list that are open for discussion. Amelia, for example, was on the list for quite a while, but the town is now proposing, I think it's taken it, and is proposing a study for parking. But Wynn Street, Friendship Lane, and a couple of others are still open for discussion.
Part of it, of getting things done requires our active vocalization of what our role is and how we can assist with the various projects that we recommend. Just as an example, out in Matticat, at the boat launching or the place where there's public entrance just before the Crooked House, there are 2 public way monuments on either side of the fence there. Both of them have seriously deteriorated. They've been, there must be a section of pipe or metal or something inside that's caused the.
Yeah.
Now that would be something that, as a roads and right-of-way committee, we could say, look, we have monuments, because we do. We have 6 or 8 monuments that say public way on them that could be replaced that could replace those decaying public way monuments at Matticat. And there are other places around the island where those posts could go. Back in the old days, we as a committee just sort of took on that the job. Once we located them, we went ahead and put those posts in the ground. And there were, I think, close to 40 of them that we placed all over the island. So I think part of what we can do as a committee is first bring to the attention of the town, mainly the town manager or the planning director, not so much, but Mike Burns, the public way person, to bring those proposals to the town and say, hey, look, these have been on the agenda for a while. What's the status? And our committee could bring a little pressure, I think, on the select board, or at least the town manager, to get some of these things done.
so that dovetails into what I was asking for, Ellen, because I just went through, we've talked about today, Stone Alley, the website update, the takings list update. And what we haven't talked about is the Sconset Bluff Walk access update. So we've been talking about the access points that do or don't have monuments, raised or flat. And so we've been kicking that can around. And also there was a discussion on the walkways. The last time we've had any official discussion on that was Jeff Carlson's memo from years ago that identified all of the walkways and whether they had permits or not. And from my recollection, more than a fair amount needs to have something addressed. And so there's things like that and so I'm asking if you all think of those kind of things, send them to me so I can put them on one list, so that we can just say, okay, what about this? What about that? Whatever. So,
Bill, there is a gaping hole regarding Chapter 91. No one understands it. There is no, Jeff Carlson seems to be the keeper of what there is to keep, and it's unclear what he has. Nothing really from what I can tell from the people I've talked, nothing really is particularly helpful to this effort up in Boston. It's really just sort of something that is just floating around out there, has a tremendous amount of significance with what's going on. Nobody really, we bumped into this big time on this committee, and this committee could take a leadership role in it if we were so inclined, because there is nobody else, and from what I can tell, in any town committees that has either any interest or any role in getting involved in this.
I would disagree a little bit, Phil, in that we had I don't want to, I was thinking forum, but we had a program where we had a representative from the state who was familiar with the Chapter 91. And we also had Jeff Carlson there. And I think it was videotaped too. This was a couple of years ago. And we went into great detail about Chapter 91 and what the implications were, particularly for Nantucket, because we have miles and miles of coastline. And we also have, the access to the harbors, the access to the water, all those issues are very relevant to life on Nantucket. I'm just trying to think, I'm pretty sure that was videotaped.
I was on that call also. But at the end of the day, there is no real repository for this whole matter. So yes, we had a meeting, it's videotaped, but nothing has been done. Nothing.
That was Frank. I can't pronounce his last name. Taorimina. He's the gentleman from the Chapter 91 department. That was the
And
guest speaker.
Well, the follow-up to that is that, again, one of the main speakers was our the person who in charge of that, Jeff Carlson, and he is the one who did much of the presentation. And one of the things he said at that meeting is that, yes, we need to have this, and so on. So he seemed to be aware of the issues. But as you say, there's no follow through. That's one of the areas where this committee could perhaps inspire a little follow through on these issues.
well, we have asked him on, because he's part of our harbor plan committee, and essentially he said he doesn't have the staffing to really get into to really do much with this. I mean, and so he is really, this is not something that he is really terribly engaged in, because he's got so many other things going on, and it's a bit of a black hole, and I don't think he disagrees with that.
Yeah. Well, there must be some way that we as the public can step in and say, hey, wait a minute, we have this is an issue. And
well, we've got a committee that,
yeah,
this is something we could take something off his hands.
yeah, exactly.
So,
one of the things we had requested.
it's a little known secret that permitting authorities don't really like the public to look at permits. They will respect the letter of the law. And so Chapter 91, if you go to their office and determine which permit you want to look at, they'll give it to you. But they are reluctant to put these things out into a digital format where anybody can look at them. This is what I learned tracking down permits for surface mining, but it's identical. Yes, if you want to look at this permit, come to our office and we'll help you out. In the meantime, all licenses, including Chapter 91, that go into a deed are searchable on the electronic version of the registry. I asked Jennifer Ferreira whether she would consider having a subset of the licenses for Chapter 91. She didn't even wait for me to finish before she said no. So for each year on licenses, you can see what licenses have been authorized. And with a certain amount of work, you can determine those that are Chapter 91. However, older ones may not be accessible that way because the registry only goes back a certain number of years, and the licenses are good for 30.
And the problem with licenses is, I think this committee knows, some licenses are in for perpetuity. Some licenses are like 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think we heard on that call, Alan, with the guy in Boston, that they have something up there in Boston on Beacon Hill that's an index card file.
Mhm.
And if you want to see what they have, you get to make an appointment,
Exactly.
on the third Monday of the, of those months with a full moon or something.
As I
Right.
said, Phil, they follow the law to the letter, but they don't make it easy.
So
Yeah.
anyhow, if this committee is looking for some way to be, more engaged, here you go, because nobody
Right.
else wants it.
Exactly. Well, Jeff Carlson is really the key there, because at the end of that program, there was some discussion, and he had, I would say, promised, but I use that word loosely. He had said that what he would attempt to do is compile a list of the Chapter 1 licenses that are extant on Nantucket. And he has all those records apparently somewhere.
In paper, in 2 loose leaf notebooks, when Leslie and I last looked at them.
Right.
Could be three notebooks now.
Well, if you would like me to, I will see him next 2 weeks from, I think it's the last Monday in the month. I can say something to him aside that there is a group that might be willing to help him if he would like to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth
That
a
would be
try.
great. But I think we did offer that to work with him, and whenever that was. Yeah.
Well, I can say something to him and see what his reaction is.
Yeah, see what he has to
I mean, he
say.
and I have a very good working relationship. I mean, he's done a very nice job. He is sort of like the senior staff person for the town on this committee.
Yes.
And I think he's done a very nice job, keeping us all civil and nice to each other and everything else.
Does anyone have a link to that Chapter 91 call or presentation?
Well, that's part of the problem.
It must be out there somewhere, because
So you guys are the only evidence. Great.
yeah, I know.
Well,
It had to have been recorded by NCTV.
we could try YouTube and just do a search in YouTube.
And the
Oh,
name
that's-
of the guy was
Chapter 91
Tayamina, Bill?
Nantucket.
That's what you
I
had?
will send that over to you, Bob, the contact info.
Yeah. Thank you.
This would be a huge step forward because I don't have to tell you the effect it has on residences on the waterfront.
Exactly. Exactly, yeah. And that, I think that's why we invited Jeff to come and speak to us about it. And that was sort of the origin of this whole program, is that, yes, indeed, we have a lot of people, all the building that's going on all over town, particularly on the waterfront. You just have to go down Easton Street and, there are all sorts of issues there as far as public access, some of which we've dealt with over the years. But, unless there's follow-up and so on, things tend not to happen.
Bob,
Does that answer your question, Bill Greeter?
well, so to keep everybody straight on this, like I say, send me something so I can put it on the list, so it's not just my note taking. Bob, I just sent that to you. Now I don't know if that guy even still works for the state anymore, so.
Right. Thank you, Bill. So he was the person who made the presentation with Jeff Carlson.
If
Yes.
memory serves me correct, yes.
Yep. Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Alright. So probably the first clue would be to try his number and see if it actually is still in existence. I think his email's on there too. Okay. All right, so anybody else have anything for discussion here? Otherwise, we can note the fact that our next meeting is April the 15th. We should be able to have that in a hybrid format because I'll be back on island. So if the board wishes, we'll do the hybrid.
Sounds good to me. We'll welcome you back, Bill.
I won't come dragging and kicking my heels too much, so it'd be good to get home, actually.
Well, you missed the senior center St. Patrick's dinner last night. But
Oh, yeah, that's the night when everybody's an Irishman, yeah.
I know.
I'm
was-
trying to figure out who elevated boiled beef, boiled potatoes, and boiled cabbage into high cuisine.
Yeah,
Well, it's funny because a lot of the restaurants, have that on their menu, including the high-end restaurants, and you're right, the price goes according to the atmosphere of the restaurant. All right, so if we have nothing else, Bob, do you have anything that you want to chime in on before we bid everybody a fond adieu here?
Nope. That's good stuff. And, I'll at least reach out to that gentleman, see if he exists and if we could get that chapter 91 talk.
right.
All right, and I will, once the troops here send me items, I will send that to the board as well as to you and Tracy, since Tracy's been our designated go-to person for everything now. And anyway, that'll be the marching orders. So that being said, if there's nothing else, we can have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Give it to Lee.
And Rick. All right, at 5:12. Okay, any discussion? If not, Alan Reinhardt,
Aye.
Lee Saperstein,
Aye.
Rick Atherton,
Aye.
Bill Smith,
Aye.
and Bill Greeter. All right, thank you, everybody.
Till
Okay.
next time.
Bye, bye, guys.
All right, take care.